Hello, check 1 2. Let me know if I'm live. One, two, 1 2. Nice. Should probably type something in chat too. For people watching this stream right now, thanks for stopping by. This is a very casual stream where we read books, where we read different TTRPGs, one per stream. If you're watching this in post, like as a VOD or something, feel free to skip the first 5 minutes of this. Once this intro is over, as you see on the timer, we can you can get right to reading the actual game. What's up, Zen there? What's up, Thumper? Welcome back. This is usually the window of time where I set up and make sure everything's all right. Severed Carpet. Welcome, welcome. And if I sound a bit weary today, I am. It's been a long week, and I spent most of the morning making sure that my video actually was published. So, a good amount of work to start the day. Probably started around 4 a.m. And now I'm here. Because clearly the most optimal way to run a YouTube channel is to upload the first video you've uploaded in a month on the same day that you stream. But to anyone here, all however many of you there are, thank you for being here. I always appreciate the faces that I recognize. And all the new names, always welcome. I remember playing Werewolf. I'm so glad you brought that up, Severed Carpet, because I have no idea what that is. Is that like a playbook? Is that like a game? Is that like the Mafia-esque type game that I've played a couple times? Werewolf can refer to a lot of things. Werewolf the Apocalypse? What is that? Is that a game? Should I look that up right now? Werewolf the Apocalypse. Oh, it's a thing. What is this thing? It's a game. Werewolf the Apocalypse? 5th edition? What is this? I've never ever heard of this. It's from Renegade Studios. Okay. See, these are the same people who made Kids on Brooms and that Power Rangers game. I see. If anything, if I can give credit to Renegade Game Studios for anything, their aesthetics are always top notch. Cover art, book art, always gorgeous. We should probably get to the game. Let me see what we're up to. Oh, it's time to start. Oh my gosh. It's part of the World of Darkness. What's up, Jason? Welcome. Let's get started today. As I got a page away from Renegade Studios. Hold on, what was I on before? Today we are talking about... Quick, turn the page. You're a professional. Today we're talking about Apocalypse World. Apocalypse World is a game that came out, I believe, in 2010, its original version, and then came out again sometime 2016-2017 as a second edition. Apocalypse World is, I believe, most famous for the lasting legacy they left in the system known as Powered by the Apocalypse, which is a framework of games, a framework of a game system that many other games have also based their game on. It's simple enough to explain, but expansive enough that many games can build around it and be wildly successful, as you can look onto many websites, which we're about to do. So let's give a little bit of context. Apocalypse World is available at apocalypse-world.com. It's also available on drive-through-RPG. It's also available on itch.io, which is what I have linked in the description. How did I get here? Apocalypse World. Yes, right here. Apocalypse World. So we're going to read the description of this game, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. The goal of this stream, which is what I want to kind of aim for, which is going to be a little bit different than our usual streams where we just read through the game. I want to see what the major appeal of this game was that spawned hundreds of other games. And from what I hear from other people, Apocalypse World isn't necessarily the best PbtA game, but it is certainly the beginning of many other games. And I'm curious if I can find what was the spark of inspiration from this game. So let's read the description. Apocalypse World. Something's wrong with this world, and I don't know what it is. It used to be better, of course it did. In the golden age of legend, when there was enough to eat and enough hope, when there was one nation under God and people could lift their eyes and see beyond the horizon, beyond the day, children were born happy and grew up rich. Now that's not what we've got. Now we've got this. Hard holders stand against the screaming elements in all corners, keeping safe as many as they can. Angels and savvy heads run constant battle against there's not enough, and bullets fly, and everything breaks. Hocuses gather people around them. And are they protectors, saviors, visionaries, or just wishful thinkers? Choppers, gun luggers, and battle babes carve out what they can and defend it with blood and bullets. Drivers search and scavenge, looking for that opportunity, that one perfect chance. Skinners and the Maestro D remember beauty, or invent beauty anew, cup it in their hands and whisper, "Come and see," and don't worry now about what it will cost you. And brainers, oh, brainers see what none of the rest of us will. The world's psychic maelstrom, the terrible desperation and hate pressing in at the edge of all perception. It is the world now. And you, who are you? That's what we've got, yes. What are you going to make of it? Oh, this is what we've got, yes. What are you going to make of it? Content warning: in addition to horror, violence, and adult themes, Apocalypse World includes sexual content, including implicit discussions of consent and power dynamics in romantic and sexual relationships. If you'd like to review this content before you buy, please download the playbooks for free at lumply.games. And if you're sensitive to sexual triggers, please proceed with care for adults. So, with that in mind, I shall also add the context that I've never read a drop of this game. I honestly have no idea what the inside of the book is going to look like. From what I can tell from the description, they have a lot of those really cool words that we don't know the meaning of that I'm sure we're going to learn about eventually. So we've got choppers, gun luggers, skinners, brainers. I don't know if these are like monsters or people. I have no context into like hard holders. There's not enough and bullets fly sound a lot like moves. Moves is a core tenet of the PbtA system that signals a motion of action or uncertainty. So with that in mind, there's a little bit of context into Apocalypse World. You can go to this website to learn more about it, which is lumply.games. You can also go here if you want to find out all the games that are tied to PbtA or the Powered by the Apocalypse system. I say drive-through-RPG is probably one of the best places you can go for something like that, because we have so many. a 40 just off the bat of the top 40 games that are involved with the Powered by the Apocalypse system, which includes but is not limited to Demigods, Ironsworn, Avatar Legends, Brindlewood Bay, Dungeon World, Monster of the Week, Masks: A New Generation, Apocalypse Keys, Root the RPG, Flying Circus, which we've covered, City of Mist, Player's Guide. We also have a whole lot of more Mask stuff, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, Widely Lauded, Passion de la Pasiones, we have, which is by Magpie Games, I believe, and it just keeps going. Lodestar, Glitter Hearts, Maze World, Uncharted Worlds. There's clearly something about this system that makes it serviceable to many different stories. And Bluebeard's Bride is the last one I think I'll cap it off on as the games that I recognize under this system. Yes, a lot of things. I need to stay away from drive-thru RPG. All those small purchases add up. They do. I certainly feel it. I do state publicly that I do try to buy every single game I cover because I feel like it's only fair to support the author of the game, but boy do those numbers add up. A lot of these games are straight up just $20, no discount. A lot of games I do find in like these large bundles that itch.io provides, so I often try to buy from that website, but boy does it hurt the wallet. Anyway, Splotchy Inc. says the guy screwed up licensing Powered by the Apocalypse. I'm going to be honest and say whatever the licensing is now is probably one of the more optimal ways to get a whole lot of games to use it. If he was going for legacy, he certainly achieved it. I believe it's a two-person team, so I can't say he. I think it's he and she. If we go here, Vincent and Maggie Baker published this in 2010, obviously, but then there was a Kickstarter to make the second edition in 2016. Vincent Baker's been writing games since 2001. Oh my gosh, could you imagine the TTRPG scene in 2001? And he's made a good number of games every few years since then. So, of the games that we're covering on this stream, on the series of 99 more, this is one of the older ones. And every now and then I do want to do one of the more storied games, so to speak, just so I can study it as a proper student and see kind of where the roots of the tree began. So let's get into this. I will preface by saying, gee golly, this PDF is 300 pages long. So, as typical on this stream, I'm not going to read 300 pages. I will simply just page through, see what I like, and then review that. If you want to read it for yourself, obviously you can buy the game, but hopefully this is a good teaser for people who are looking to kind of figure out what this game is about. Thumper says you are a reviewer. The exposure you bring is very much worthwhile to publishers. I hope so. If my streams result in one purchase beyond my own, that's a net positive. And even if nobody gets the game, my purchase is a net positive, right? They get money from it. And I don't ever try to disparage a game more than necessary, because what's the point of that? What's the point of covering TTRPGs if I'm just gonna knock them down? Certainly won't be part of the 99 more series. Toby says, I was just looking for a review on Apocalypse World and then suddenly find that you're streaming it right now. That's me. It's me streaming Apocalypse World. You found me. Welcome. Let's get into it. This cover is intense. I wonder if there's going to be a lot of art like this. Cool. Other games by Vincent Baker. Other games by Maggie Baker. Do I recognize any of these? Not quite. I've heard of Firebrands, actually. I've heard of quite a bit about Firebrands. That was on my list of recommended games. You also need loose printouts of character playbooks, player reference sheets, and MC's play sheets. I believe I have that here. I think. I don't really know. These are what came with the downloads. This is 42 pages. Oh my gosh, what is this? Oh, these are probably playbooks. These are 14 pages of more playbooks, I think. Cool. And they're all available for free here. Obviously, this whole game is not available for free, but a lot of these samples are. Contents. looking at a big game is intimidating. After reading a string of games that are about 20 pages of necessity, like 20 pages of necessary reading or less, these are like heavy. But hey, the basics, we're gonna read all of this. That looks like 15 pages to me. We'll look at like 1 or 2 playbooks. I feel like that's fair. Just to get a feel of what's going on. A brief glimpse at character creation. I think that's important. I find character creation... Oh, I skipped all the way ahead to it. I feel like character creation is a make or break thing in a lot of tabletop RPGs. In that, if it's too complicated, people will just pass on the game. I feel like it's honestly one of the weakest parts of D&D in particular in terms of onboarding new players. Certainly an interesting process, but it takes a whole lot of time when there are other games that streamline character creation quite well. Master of Ceremonies, I'm assuming, is the equivalent of a game master, and it provides rules that I'm also assuming I've read in many other Powered by the Apocalypse games. But I'm curious in the words about the words. Where is it? I want to read the moves, because in theory, right, this is the first game to feature the moves a la PbtA style. And for the rest of the game, we'll just kind of skim and see what we could learn. These are a lot of basic moves, which are interesting. I don't think I'll read all of these, but I'll highlight them just to prove that there's a lot of them. I feel like basic moves are one of the things that are more abstract. Coming from a game like D&D where you have like insight, stealth, athletics, very straightforward words of action. Sometimes basic moves, because they change with every PbtA game, take a little bit of time to grasp. Like if I wanted to say, I don't know, break into a safe, right? Which one would that be? Would that be in battle? Would that be go aggro? Would that be act under fire? It's kind of hard, but you know, that's just a personal thing with PbtA. I also understand that not everybody enjoys the system. I certainly enjoy it for what it is in terms of streamlining, actually cutting out a lot of fat. In terms of combat systems, in terms of like mechanics of distance, of weapons, of damage dice. The move system is streamlined in that regard, but it's also a very artful thing in that all of these are kind of what's the word? Asymmetrical in terms of like how long they are, how simple they are, how difficult they are, whereas the skill system in D&D is actually very simple. Splotchy Ink says, here's the thing, Apocalypse World isn't big, it's got a lot of stuff, a large number of playbooks bloats the page count, really it's more of a 20-page game and a lot of settings and no monsters and all that. Not to imply that's a bad thing, honestly it's a great thing. I agree. If I can learn the game within 20 pages, I'm in. I'm not somebody who enjoys reading 50 pages of a game to get a grasp of how to play the game. That's exhausting. I believe the D&D starter PDF is like 32 pages ish, which is a lot. But I was understandably invested because I love medieval fantasy, and obviously D&D was the biggest game, and that's kind of how everybody gets into D&D, right? It's just the biggest game on the market. You're guaranteed a table somewhere, things like that. So, all of this is just extra stuff that we can read towards the end, so we'll figure out what we get to. But I do want to get through the basic rules more than anything. The basics. So let's do that. Let's read. Nobody remembers how or why. Maybe nobody ever knew. The oldest living survivors have childhood memories of it. Cities burning, society in chaos and collapse, families set to panicked flight, the weird nights when the smoldering sky made midnight into a blood-colored half-day. Now the world is not what it once was. Look around you, evidently, certainly not what it was. But also close your eyes, open your brain. Something's wrong. At the limits of perception, something howling, ever-present, full of hate and terror. From this, the world's psychic maelstrom, when we none of us have shelter. Cool start. good energy, post-apocalyptic world, a disaster that led to the world as it exists now, exciting stuff, mysterious stuff. Yin Yang Yao, if I may ask, what is the Icy Dragon getting into? If you're talking about what the stream is, we're reading Apocalypse World. If you're talking about in general, learning new games. Setting up to play. Get 3 or more players, including you. You choose one player to be the Master of Ceremonies. Since this is the Master of Ceremonies playbook, that's you. Apocalypse World takes quite a few sessions to play, so choose friends with space in their schedules for a commitment. The game really kicks in around the 6th session mark, and it can go much longer. Once you've got your group together, start the game with character creation. Before that though, you have some prep to do. Read through the first part of this book. The basics, the playbooks, character creation, the MC, and the first session, and skim the rest to get a handle on your job as an MC. Playbooks. We know this word. The game's playbooks and reference sheets contain all the rules that the other players need to play. Rules for creating and introducing their characters, having them take consequential action in play, and changing and developing them as play continues. Print them out before you play, and bring the set with you to your first session. The conversation. You probably know this already, role-playing is conversation. You and the other players go back and forth, talking about these fictional characters in their fictional circumstances, doing whatever it is that they do. Like any conversation, you take turns, but it's not like taking turns, right? Sometimes you talk over each other, interrupt, build on each other's ideas, monopolize, and hold forth. All fine. These rules mediate the conversation. They kick in when someone says some particular things, and they impose constraints on what everyone should say after. Makes sense, right? Moves and dice. The particular things that make these rules kick in are called moves. Now moves for me, stepping a little bit out of context here, has always been the hardest for me to explain to other players. Like if someone says, "What is a move? I want to do a move." I don't really know how to explain it to them. So let's see how the original book does it. All of the player our bleh, bleh, bleh. All of the character playbooks list the same set of basic moves. Plus, each playbook lists special moves just for that character. So yeah, the universal basic moves and then the playbook specific special moves. We understand that. Your threats might list special moves too. When a player says that her character does something listed as a move, that's when she rolls, and that's the only time she does. So there is this recurring rule, and this is consistent with all the other games I've read. The only time you roll in this game is when you do something called a move. So let's find out what moves are. The rule of moves is to do it, do it. By the way, this has always been a little bit confusing for me, this phrase. This is in almost every PbtA book, this phrase here. In order for it to be a move, and for the player to roll dice, the character has to do something that counts as a move. And whenever the character does something that counts as a move, it's the move, and the player rolls dice. Usually it's unambiguous. I guess I crawl out there. I tried to keep my head down. I'm doing it under fire? Yup. But there are two ways they sometimes don't line up, and it's your job as MC to deal with them. So far, still a little confusing. First is when a player says only that her character makes a move without having her character actually take any such action. For instance, I go aggro on him. Your answer should then be, cool, what do you do? I seize the radio by force. Cool, what do you do? I tried to fast talk him. Cool, what do you do? So I'm guessing seize, fast talk, and go aggro are the moves here. Where you say, this is kind of similar to saying, I roll an athletics check. I roll or insight check, right? When you say that in the context of the game, it's like, okay, but what does that look like? So, which would hopefully inform in this game, the MC, what the best way for the target to respond in the situation of success or failure. So I understand that conceptually, that you should be a little less mechanics focused and more story focused. And then from that story focus, we can figure out what mechanics fit it. Second is when a player has her character take action that counts as a move, but doesn't realize it, or doesn't intend for it to be a move. For instance, I shove him out of my way. Your answer should then be, cool, you're going aggro. I pout, well, if you really don't like me. Cool, you're trying to manipulate him. I squeeze way back between the tractor and the wall so they don't see me. Cool, you're acting under fire. You don't ask in order to give the player a chance to decline the roll. You ask in order to give the player a chance to revise her character's action if she really didn't mean to make the move. Cool, you're going aggro? Legit. Oh, no, if he's really blocking the door, whatever, I'll go the other way. This makes sense to me. Not legit. Well, no, I'm just shoving him out of my way. I don't want to roll for it. The rule for moves is if you do it, you do it, so make with the dice. Okay, that's still not the best way to explain something like this. Because the way I've come to understand moves is when somebody attempts something that has an air of uncertainty, that has room for failure, then it's probably a move. That's how I've always understood it. It's just a matter of which move is it, you know? So it's the same way that you say like, hey, in D&D, I cast fly and fly 60 feet up, right? That's not a move because you can just do that and there's nothing stopping you. Unless there's like a counterspell or something. There's nothing stopping you. That just happens. But if you say, I push a boulder out of the way, one, how? Two, there's clearly a chance for failure there. There's a resistance. There's something pushing against you. So that's what I believe moves are. And I've almost very consistently had a problem with defining moves for other people. Because if I read this paragraph out to other people, that won't help. It's not ideal. You know? Thumper says, this is the first time ever these rules were written. Well, technically not, because there was a 2010 version and this is a 2016 version, but it's still Apocalypse World. Yeah, you're right. if we're being technical, this was written in 2010, and this is the second edition of it. But yeah, that's cool. I think it's cool to look at this as the first time playbooks and moves were defined. That's exciting. I like that. Because could you imagine like reading the first game that uses a 20-sided dice, or like a game that invented the 20-sided dice exactly for that reason? That'd be so cool. This is a kind of the same thing in a more modern actually in the same way, so to speak. It's interesting just to see the origins. Okay, I'm gonna read some comments because I missed it. Splotchy Inc. says, my opinion, PbtA is a great system that is deceptively nuanced. I agree with this. There's layers to it. Thus, it's very easy and very commonly misused by novice indie RPG makers who think the system can work with everything. I do agree with this. It's like the D&D problem, but with the indie creator standpoint. Thumper responds, I can see how it looks like a formula by making an RPG. Splotchy Inc. says D&D has rules for game mechanics. PbtA has rules for narrative mechanics. Moves are just that. They are narrative names attached to game mechanics. Like when you write a book report, commenting on how a quote made by a character is a call to action. In the game, the character saying that quote in game would have the GM say that the move was a call to action move. Sure. Yeah. So A little bit of context, because this was my first interaction, for people who watched the video I released today. My first interaction with PbtA games was Masks, and trying to understand that game when you've only ever played D&D was so beyond me. It was so ridiculously difficult, because I'm like, what do you mean I can just fly if I want to? What do you mean I can shoot laser beams and there's no numbers attached to it? There's no damage dice. I can do whatever I want with these beams. If they curve, that works too. If they turn into bunny rabbits, that works too. Because it's all flavor in the context of these moves. It took me forever to wrap my head around that. And the D6 system made sense from the jump. Obviously, like partial success, failure. That was cool, and I really enjoyed that. But the fiction first approach to this was so confounding to me, because I was so used to battle maps. I was so used to measuring distance. It took a while to click, but once it did, obviously, then I get it. And once I got that, then every PbtA game after that was so easy. It was that little hurdle of me just stepping out of the comfort zone of D&D. So I have this kind of special place in my heart for PbtA as being the game that kind of broke me out of the D&D mindset and opened my mind to more games. Even though it's not a perfect system, I do think that there's less of an appeal to these sort of games for people who enjoy crunchier games, for people who enjoy big number go up, right? Swing weapon, break armor, 12d12 damage. People love that stuff. I love that stuff. I'm a nerd for like, how can I add another d6 to this damage? Huge fan of that concept. And this kind of says like, hey, if you want to be Superman, you can be Superman. The limits to you aren't necessarily how strong your superpowers are. It's the narrative consequences of using those powers, which is what Masks does really well. So give and take. You win some, you lose some. Adding crunch to PbtA games in terms of like number crunch is fairly complex, because it's not really a system that accommodates damage numbers very well. If anybody's played the new Avatar game, Avatar: The Last Airbender game, Avatar Legends, I believe it's called, it's okay, but they tried to add a battle mechanic to it, and I feel like it just doesn't fit the flow of what PbtA games are, and it's a little bit clunkier than I'd like. I still haven't seen someone combine a good combat system with PbtA, and I'm not sure if I want to see it. There's a bit of a freedom in, if you do it, as they say. If you want to shoot laser beams at the monster and that you want that to be your power, it just happens. The freedom of being able to tell my friends, hey, you want a superpower? As long as it doesn't ruin the autonomy of the other players, you could probably have it. And just like watching their their eyes kind of open and widen and be revealed to the freedom of just having that option, when normally they'd be limited to, oh, what subclass is that? What really fits that? Like the D&D subclass system? Mind-boggling. If it was like a revelation moment. I loved it. So that's my rant about learning PbtA. It does good things well and does a lot of other things not so well. And every system has its ups and downs. Splotchy Inc says PbtA doesn't do traditional combat at all. Yeah, it just the one of the biggest appeals of PbtA is freedom. It's the ability to craft whatever creative character you want and not be limited by numbers saying no, you can't do that. The playbooks are like 90% vibe and leading your character down a certain story path and accommodating that certain story path. It's not about being like, well, you're gonna get a D12 at level 5. That's not. It's not the appeal. It's not what you played for. But we're not even reading the game at this point. Let's keep reading. That's a wonderful example, Thumper. If you ask a comic book writer who would win out of Spider-Man and the Hulk, they would say it depends on the plot. Totally agree. In a In a game like D&D, both of those characters would be statted out, and in a 1v1 you could probably run a turn-by-turn basis, and within certain frameworks either Spider-Man or the Hulk would win, right? But in PbtA, both of these characters are by default settings equal in power, because it's not about one of them being stronger than the other. It's about the odds of the rolls dictating where the story goes. Cool, great. Fallen Phoenix 4, welcome. How's everyone doing? Doing well. You, Phoenix, you left a comment on my video about a Discord. I feel like I've answered this a couple of times. I would personally love to have a Discord for myself. The problem is, I don't have the social battery to run a Discord. I feel like I am busy, and I wouldn't be able to accommodate people's attention as much as I would love to. So I feel like me starting a Discord, while an interesting idea, would be a bit of a disappointment because I wouldn't be able to interact with it as much as I would like to. I have a lot of things I have planned for this channel, and the Discord is probably at the bottom of the list just because it's I've been part of a lot of Discords, and it's often not a good long-term plan because it requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of energy, and I just feel like I could put that energy somewhere else. We can run a Discord for you, lol. I don't want other people to run my Discord. I don't want people to speak for me. Call me stubborn. I know a lot of people do it, but it can't be me. Can't be me. If I don't know you personally, I wouldn't allow you to run a Discord. Maybe that's something I'll change my mind on a year from now. Maybe. That's just how it goes. Clara Winham, would you ever consider doing a stream on Dungeon World? Sure. I've had a couple of people bring up Dungeon World for me. I'm really trying to space out the PbtA games because I've covered, I believe, 3 already. I've covered Masks, I've covered Flying Circus, I've covered Cantrip, and I think those are all PbtA games. I don't know if Cantrip is, actually, now that I think about it. But at least 2 plus this one. So Dungeon World will be somewhere in the future, hopefully not in the 20s. But I'll add it to my list or have a ongoing list. Just kidding, Wintry, you're cool. Discord and on Discord. Thank you. I try. There's many people who are very good at running a Discord. I'm not one of those people. But otherwise, I'm all open to ideas. But thank you guys for bringing it up. Thank you guys for believing that I am deserving of a Discord, because it's very flattering. Very, very flattering. Anyway, let's learn more about this game. We've been talking for 10 minutes about things that aren't this game, so let's do it. Great. So now, check the moves listings. Each move says which stat the player should add to the roll. To roll plus a stat, the player rolls 2 dice, adds them, and adds a stat. If the sum total is 6 or less, that's a miss. If it's 7 or more, it's a hit. 7 or 9 is a weak hit, 10 plus is a strong hit. This right here is the cornerstone of PbtA design, and I love it. I love it. There is this is a no notes moment. This is as simple as it gets. The barrier to entry to understanding it is like nothing. It's so good. It's so good. I can explain it off the bat. Just tell somebody, hey, half of your rolls will be successes. Some of the successes will be better than others. But half of the successes, you're going to be able to do what you want to do. 7 to 9, you'll be able to do it with consequences. 6 or less, something bad happens. And then you give the narrative control back to the game master, and I take it wherever I want. That's just so good. It's just so good. And I think that really speaks to people, as it's like, this could be any story. This could be any narrative. It doesn't have to be anything post-apocalyptic. You take this rule, it's just good as it is, right out of the box. It's like a really nice, it's like an Oreo cookie. No notes, right? It's just good. It's just good. Yay, bell curves. I'm telling you. And it works so well. It's and I'll say it right now, because I have run into games where it's just like roll a 1d10, right? Roll a 1d10, and 6 and up is this, 5 and up is this, 5 and below is this, and you get to do this. But the thing about that is it doesn't obscure the odds at all. you know right off the bat that's like a 50%, that's exactly a 50% to succeed, 50% chance to fail, literally no imagination. But at least this 2d6 system, I can't tell you off the top of my head how likely 7 or 8 is, but I can tell you it's probably pretty likely, right? But just that slight bit of variance, specifically the standard distribution bell curve, is so good for my brain, because I don't want to know my exact odds. I don't want to know. Sometimes the exact odds like mess with me, and I'm like, and there's like an optimal decision. None of this is optimal. None of this is optimal. It doesn't matter how optimal it is. The odds are you're probably gonna succeed. Maybe. Honestly, who really knows? Just go for it, right? It's obscured just enough that I feel like I'm always playing the odds when I roll it. But if you give me a coin and flip it, I know 50-50. I'm not too comfortable making that call. Yeah. I like it when my brain is like twisted a little bit, and I can't when the game numbers are not so transparent. Actually, one of the really nice things about D&D is that with the plus 5, the flat bonuses versus advantage, those odds always change depending on the AC of the monster. Like, would you rather have a +3, or would you rather have a +5 to your attack or advantage? That answer is not consistent. There's not a right answer. It depends on the AC of the monster, whether advantage or a flat bonus is more valuable. And that's not something I have the time to memorize. So oftentimes in the game, I gotta just feel what I think is right. Go with the gut and go for it. And I enjoy that. I like being a little bit obscured. I like when it's complicated, when a very simple system suddenly kind of blossoms into something more complicated. Big fan of number crunching. But this is also very simple, very clean. Oreo cookie levels of classic. Dig it. Anyway, all the moves lists what should happen on a hit. 10 or 9 or 10 plus to follow them. Many of them list what happens on a miss, so follow those too. The basic moves though, just tell the players to be prepared for the worst. That's when it's your turn, right? I like the idea of the narrative control being handed back to the game master on a 6 or less. I really enjoy just the swiftness of which the story moves in that situation. I won't say that I enjoy conflict or combat situations in PbE more than D&D, but I will say it moves way faster. It moves way, way, way faster. Where a conflict in PbtA could be 1 minute or 20 minutes, but with a classic five round combat of D&D could take upwards of 2 hours. It's and I'm going to keep comparing this with D&D because this is the touchstone of which I figure out if I like games or not. And through reading PbtA, I realized that I'm really not a fan of how long combat takes in D&D. And oftentimes, the better a game facilitates the fluidity of the story, how quickly decisions are made and the characters grow and develop and change and experience, the more I like it. I like D&D combat. It is not conducive to character growth. It is so slow. It is so slow. I've learned to speed up combat. Yeah, I mean, you should. The problem is when and this is a personal gripe about D&D. I like surprising my players, and often that occurs from legendary actions. It occurs from reactions. It occurs from off-turn changes of the battlefield, right? And a player that spends the 5 minutes of off-turn round planning what they're going to do next, and then that plan changes just before their turn, so they need another 5 minutes to plan. Suddenly that slows things down. So being inventive
keeping your player surprised and on their feet often punishes you from on a time scale. It often slows down the game, which is tough. It's fun, but it's tough. Because if I say right before your turn, by the way, you're starting to notice lava creeping in from the cracks in the floor, one, that's very evocative. Two, suddenly they're gonna have to change their plan, which means more time spent thinking. You know? It's like, why are you punishing somebody why does ingenuity punish the play experience? Little gripe. You only experience that when you really get into the weeds of game mastering, which I've done a dumb amount of games for. So nowadays my combats are as blunt as possible and as dramatic as possible and as few turns as possible. It's like, I want you to experience the full range of emotions in one round, so no matter what, when this is over, you can at least be satisfied with the experience. So yeah. Old Cockathan, welcome back. Hey, what you love the new video, and I just started playing Candela Obscura. It's great. Cool. Yeah. I really love the vibe of Candela Obscura. I do enjoy the dice system. I think that's kind of neat. I don't know. I think that game, as interesting as it is kind of thin. I don't know if the word is, but obviously it's just a playtest, right? It's going to flesh out more later when the game actually releases, supposedly later this year, I think. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they flesh out. Games like that kind of live or die on the content released. I'm expecting some modules, some stories, and it really has to pick up a life of its own and inspire a number of people to kind of write for it. One of D&D's greatest achievements is inspiring hundreds of people to write adventures for them, which is the lifeblood of the game. If this didn't happen and everybody only played the adventure modules and those ran out, the game would die very quickly. It's this inspiration, it's this constant flow of new content from inspired fans is what makes D&D very successful. IMO. But yeah. Yeah, Jason, I agree. So I try to limit my players' time, but at the end of the day, I don't want them to make a dumb decision that they regret. I want them to feel like they've played the best they can. But you don't always get that. It's really give or take. Do you want them to be proud of how they played, or do you want to pressure them so they make these reckless decisions that could be more interesting story points? There's a little bit of a delicate balance there. But yeah, Old God Cthulhu, that sounds awesome. Tell me how that goes, because I'm really curious if I want to run Candela Obscura for some of my friends, because I feel like a game supported by Critical Role will probably have a pretty good following. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, more Apocalypse World. We're on page 14 and almost an hour in. Some of the rules say, take one forward. Well, now that you have read Apocalypse World, will you read Knives in the Dark? If you mean Blades in the Dark, yes. Blades in the Dark will absolutely be one of the games that I read for 99 more. I'm just trying to figure out when. I'm trying to space out the big name games, so to speak. And Blades in the Dark is absolutely one of the big top 10 most recognizable games of the tabletop RPG world. So it's not a question of if it's going to be covered, it's when. And I think for something like that, I would love to get somebody else on the stream who's familiar with it to help explain how the game goes. It's been a while since I've had a proper guest on one of these streams, but yeah, Blades is on there. Blades is on the list. Hello, Firebreak. Welcome to the stream. We're trying to read Apocalypse World, but right now we've only read the basics of PbtA, and we've kind of gone into I'm not going to blame chat. I've kind of gone into a diatribe of the differences between the D&D system and the PbtA system and the strengths and weaknesses of both. So, if you want to go back on that, you can watch the last 20 minutes after the VOD's over. So, we were talking about successes, partial successes, and failures. Some of the rules: take one forward, take one ongoing, and let's see, and take one. Yes, he says.
+1 or -1 forward just means a player adds 1 or subtracts 1 from their very next roll. So the immediate roll afterward is +1 -1 forward. +1 or -1 ongoing means to add 1 or subtract 1 from all their rolls from now until whenever the bonus or penalty is done. So that's kind of a passive ongoing bonus that happens to every roll. Now, I've seen from other PbtA games hold 1. Like there's +1 forward, +1 ongoing, and there's +1 hold. +1 hold is when you hang on to a bonus and use it when it's most advantageous to you, at which point the bonus expires. And sometimes that'll have a time limit or a day limit. Just thought that was an interesting expansion to this +1 rule that is not present here. This is an interesting rule. I'm not sure what we're about to read. Each of the characters also has a special move that kicks in when they have sex with someone. For most of the characters, the special sex moves apply when they have sex with another player's character. Not with "oh, just anybody," but for a few of them, "oh, just anybody" will do. Huh? Huh? What is this? This seems wildly out of place for the basic rules, and understandably absent from any other PbtA game I've read before. How bizarre. That might just be the flavor of the game. I'm not gonna question it. That just might be something about the game that I haven't run into yet. But hey, post-apocalyptic world, your game, your story, right? Firebreak says, which edition are you looking at? You're about to get into something I think that's not universal between editions. Yeah, I think I just ran into that. Wild. This is 2nd edition, Firebreak. This is 2nd edition, 2016 edition. Let's just keep going. See the move chapters for full descriptions. The basic moves, page 136. Are you telling me that this is like, there's a section in the playbook for this? That would be absolutely wild if there's like a special little section in every single playbook that tells me what happens in this. Anyway, I'm just very caught off guard. See the moves chapters for full descriptions. The basic moves, page 136. The peripheral and battle moves, page 158 and 166. And the battle moves, page 182. This was 2010 to 2016. It was a different time. It was 10 years ago, Splotchy Inc. This is not a different time. It's literally within this century. Within this decade. It is too funny. Listen, I'll never... part of the fun in these streams is that I don't know what I'm about to read. So, I'll leave that as it is. The stats. There's probably 6. There's actually 5. 6. Okay. Cool. Meaning cool under fire. Rational, clear thinking, calm, calculating, unfazed. Rule plus cool. I do like this phrase. To do something under fire. Oh, so every action has a very specific stat. Cool. Hard. Meaning hard-hearted, violent, aggressive, strong-willed, mean, physically and emotionally strong. Roll plus hard to go aggro on someone. Oh, interesting. So do something under fire is like a logical choice. It's like a logical thing. Because it says here rational, clear thinking, calm, calculating. This feels like something that'd be under pressure. Like if I read this, I'm like, was this something that happens like if you do something reckless because you have to make a quick decision? But this is more like, how cool are you under pressure? Hard is go aggro on someone. So something emotional, violent, stuff like that. Hot, meaning hot, attractive, subtle, gracious, sexy, beautiful, inspiring, exciting. Roll plus hot to seduce or manipulate someone. Sure. This is basically like a reflavored charm. Obviously, we've seen things like this before. It's just very, very loud, I guess. I don't know. I gotta be in this specific state of mind to be like, I want to do something hot, you know? It's way easier for me to say I want to do something charming, but that just might be a different cup of tea. Anyway, sharp, meaning sharp-witted, clever, smart, perceptive, educated, skilled, trained, role sharp to read a person or read a situation. Right, so this is like an insightful thing. Weird, meaning a weirdo, psychic genius, uncanny, lucky, strange, prophetic, touched. Roll plus weird to open your brain to the world's psychic maelstrom. Okay, this is different. Okay, yeah, they did mention a bit of a psychic maelstrom earlier on in the book. Is this magic? Is this like their magic system? Like psi system? So, huh. I'm curious what this means. Because I remember I'm trying to compare this to games I played before, which is Masks. Masks had a move called Use Your Powers. Right? Now, I believe that's the equivalent to this. Use Your Powers implies that you are exerting your powers in a way that is risky, dangerous, and not guaranteed to succeed, right? Otherwise, you could do all three, you could do any of the other moves technically using your superpowers, right? So, in theory, somebody with powers could do any of these without any issue. But using your powers or opening your brain to the world's psychic maelstrom implies that there's some sort of risk, right? Implies that there's some sort of fail state that this is not necessarily a recommended thing for you to do. So, curious what this means. Yeah, unleash your powers. That's what it is. Perfect. Firebreak. Thank you for the correction. That's what it's called in Masks. And then HX meaning history, like RX for prescription and DX for diagnosis. I know these words. Particularly shared history. How well one character knows another. It doesn't mean how well your character likes the other, just how well a character knows the other. It's also asymmetrical. My character might know yours very well, like HX plus 2, while yours doesn't know mine well at all, like HX minus 1. Roll plus HX to help or interfere with someone. Makes sense? I like that these are kind of like personality traits, and this is just a straight like relationship bar. So like an asymmetrical stats list. Maximum is plus 3. I think this is something that carries over to most PbtA games. They often go max plus 3. I know some games only go minimum plus 2. Or minimum minus 2. Cool minus 2 means your cool is minus 2. Yep, all makes sense. Cool. Here. Most individual items or gear, most individual items of gear get a list of descriptive tags. Magnum 3 harm, 3 minus harm, close, reload, loud or followers, fortune plus 2 surplus 1 barter, augury wand, judgment savagery. This means nothing to me. Oh my gosh, and I feel like it's gonna be a while before these are explained. These tags work in 3 different ways. Some are straightforwardly mechanical, like 3 minus harm. Fortune plus 2. Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. Surplus and want. Some note the circumstance. This doesn't make sense at all to me. Some note the circumstances under which the thing can be useful, like close and reload. Some tell you the MC thinks to say when your character uses the thing, like loud, 1 minus barter, augury, judgment, and savagery. See the gear chapter full description, page 224. So you're telling me there's 200 pages before this is explained? Fine, we'll click it. This is complex. Remember what I said about PbtA games being simple but at its core? This seems like a lot. I mean, it's not, it's like equipment, right? It's like the specifics of equipment. 3- harm. If you have a negative HX with another character, that would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah. One of my big things, which I mention almost every single stream, is the importance of proximity between new game words and when it's explained. So like, if you keep saying harm and I don't know what that is for a very long time, it makes everything I read with the word harm included in it almost entirely unreadable because it ruins the context. So if they keep mentioning surplus and want or fortune or barter all throughout this game, then I won't understand it. Oh, actually, this is perfect. Look, harm is right here. Perfect. That's exactly perfect. So harm is the one word here that gets the explanation right beneath it. So this is what I mean by proximity. Like, harm is right here. I want to know what harm is. Harm is right here. Perfect. These tags mostly tell you what they do in the game. It's a hand weapon. You expect to use it in hand. If it's messy, you can't use it with finesse. Sure, right. But hear me out. Like, as a new player, me reading 1- barter, augury, want, judgment, savagery, I couldn't tell you what that means. I couldn't guess what that means. If I had to guess, like, fortune +2 means the money you're holding. Surplus means it's more money than you can have without being suspicious. 1- barter means you are lacking in the ability to barter while you have this money. Augury is a magical psychic storm thing. Want means that the item is desirable. Judgment means people will judge you when you have it. And savagery means people will fight you if you have it. Like, those are my guesses, right? A lot of these one-word things, if they're not intuitive, they're confusing. There's very little middle ground there. Like, I will not know what these are for a very long time, and that'll bug me for a while I read it. Like, and I get it. Like, some games, like, and this just doesn't even sound 3 harm, close, reload, loud. I get it. We have to reload. Now I have to wonder about reload mechanics. Loud. I see loud here. Now, is there a proximity to that? Is there a range to that? Or is it just generically loud? Close. Why is it close and loud? Is this like a very close gun? Sure. 3- harm, I'm assuming it's a damage system, right? This is a little easier to understand than whatever this might be, because this makes no sense at all. And like, and I will say it. I will say it. In D&D, at least the current 5th edition, not necessarily oneD&D, because a lot of those are confusing. When they started doing Nick and Grays and all that, a little bit confusing. But a lot of words in D&D, because they're aiming for that whole natural language aesthetic, are very intuitive, right? Bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Obvious, you know. Two-handed, light, heavy, ranged, like very, very simple words, right? Like, almost to the point that there's no way you could misconstrue what it could possibly be. What the heck is savagery? What does that mean? That's never used ever. I'm gonna look it up right now. What does savagery mean? They mention it again in 48. That tells me nothing. Mentioned again in 52. Still haven't explained it. Page 250, they finally explain what savagery is. When your people are in want, their society collapses. Social conventions and basic human relationships break down. So do items carry the ability to break down societies? I don't know. But yeah, and this is not to bash on the game. I'm being overly pedantic here with and overly critical of focusing on, like, hyper focusing on this specific sentence. But it is a pet peeve when people, for me, when game designers throw in cool sounding words that aren't intuitive, that like just don't make sense from the jump. I feel like a lot of a game hinges on the ability for a new player to just pick it up and play. You want to reduce the amount of the number, as many barriers to entry of playing it as possible, and that means 1, making the reader comfortable, 2, making the reader invested in the world, and 3, making the game easy to understand. Those are just the basics, the basics, right? A lot of games do really well with flavor, do really well with a quick hook, but are very bad with like teaching the game. And these tiny tag words are often the reason for that, when there's a lot of obscuring words. I'm lingering on this because I'm notably very sleepy. But fire break, can a bonus action be used to perform an action? No, it can only be used to perform a bonus action. Yes, D&D has many flaws. Thank you for confirming something that I entirely agree with. That D&D is not perfect, especially 5e. And my favorite nonsensical thing from D&D is that a melee weapon attack is not the same thing as an attack with a melee weapon. Those are two completely different. Those are two mechanically different things, and it's the most bizarre thing. But yeah, I should probably figure out what this game is about. Let's get through basics, and we'll get the browsing, and we'll try to wrap this up in a reasonable amount of time. But Ducey Van Dusen. For as hard as tags are to understand, the playbooks in AW were revolutionary in terms of having all the rules, moves needed right there. I agree. I think playbooks are a fantastic take on what character sheets could be. I think there's a very heavy misconception on like character sheets being the place where you hold all your stats, where you hold all your equipment, where you sort of manage the physical and mental capabilities of your character. And it was so refreshing to, again, using my cornerstone point of PbtA of masks, to look at the playbook and be like, oh, this playbook is helping explain the trajectory of my character. What kind of story I would like to tell with this character. And it's like it was aiding me in figuring out what kind of narrative I would like to craft. And when I design a character in D&D, I love being like, okay, I'm going to design this character, and what's very important to me is the struggles that they go through, the struggles that they have been through, and where that leads them to. What am I aspiring to, and how does that change as I experience this story? That's one of my favorite things about tabletop RPGs in general, and that has nothing to do at all with the numbers. For a playbook to kind of slap me in the face and be like, if you pick this playbook, your character is on this trajectory, you should learn to embrace it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. When I could take a character like somebody who, for example, in this superhero game of masks, I want a character who can shoot lasers from their palms. Sure. So what playbook do you choose? Do you choose the protege, which is somebody who is or is it the legacy? The legacy is somebody who is learning underneath somebody who had those similar powers. Am I the transformed? Is this a new form that I have to adjust to? Am I the beacon? Am I trying to be this heroic light even though this power is underwhelming? The different playbooks could all work with that superpower. So the mechanical benefits of the character didn't matter. All that mattered was my choice in what trajectory the story I wanted, what kind of story I wanted to tell. And I thought that was so empowering. So the playbooks, inspired by Apocalypse World, of course, is just a lovely idea. Such a good take on the very JRPG fantasy type character sheets that we're used to. The Diablo-esque, these are the numbers and it's good when they go up type of approach. But Splash. Yes. Splashing says, yes, playbooks are a double-edged sword. It can streamline character creation, but it can also be seen as a pre-made character sheet balanced for the game. Yeah. I think playbooks are defining of the PbtA system. I think that playbooks most accurately tell you what kind of story you're trying to tell. And by looking through them, you can tell playbooks are interesting in that, in the same way that new races and subclasses kind of expand the character options of D&D, new playbooks are how people are kind of fed new stories that they can tell, which is interesting because it's a totally opposite approach from D&D, where it's like, here are the numbers, now tell the story. Whereas in PbtA is like, here's a story, how do you tell it? And that's probably not as insightful as I would hope it would be. It's not some sage wisdom that's being provided to you, but golly, it was such a mental shift from D&D to learn PbtA that it really like shook me up. It really shook me up when I did it, and I kind of started seeing a whole lot of the games that I've been playing in a different light, because I'm like, okay, I like this thing from PbtA. How do I make my D&D games more like that? And it immediately became, when did this become like a like a stream very much not about Apocalypse World, but almost immediately after I started reading PbtA games, in my D&D games, I started telling my players, hey, I'm gonna start reading your backstories. You tell me what you're comfortable giving to me, and I will take it and use it. Like, I will weaponize it immediately. So I was put into the mindset of, these characters need to experience a story that is true and targeted towards them. Like, it's not really about where I'm leading the world, which will happen as consequence of me just playing the game. But I want these characters to experience a journey within themselves, to learn about their trajectory, whether that's changing depending on their environment. I became very, very character focused rather than world focused. And I felt like I was slowly unlocking different not only reactions but developments in the players that I ran for. I felt like they were tapping into something that they very rarely get to tap into a travel combat type of campaign so far. So that's what I've been trying to talk about the entire time in that video I released today. It's that playing and reading and playing other games make you better, because suddenly you're able to see the type of games you can run. And
me playing D&D, I was very tunnel visioned into what kind of games I could run, which were very formulaic and suited for very specifically the D&D system. But once I started reading other games, I realized there's so many other ways to play. So many other ways to surprise and intrigue your players. It was wild. It felt like an enlightening. And I don't get that experience from every game I read. I'm not inspired by every single game I read, but I certainly pick up something new from every game I read. And I feel like my tool belt has been drastically expanded since I started reading at the top of this year. And I'll be honest, for a lot of my players, for a lot of my friend groups, I still run D&D for them because that's our connecting point. It would be very hard to convince them to play another game. But boy, can I do my games feel like they can be other games at sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't feel like they're playing D&D because I'm tapping into all of these things that are pulled from the frameworks of other games. So it's refreshing to me to do so. And I very much enjoy it. And I get to keep all the things I like about D&D. So it's a little bit of a world. But yeah. So let's thank you for everybody who's talking in chat and yeah. Thumper, thank you. Onwards. You know what? Screw it. Let's just read some playbooks. Let's just get into it. I'm gonna start. I think that I have overstayed my welcome in the basic rules of Apocalypse World. Harm. How you harm people. Sure. Character improvement. Sure. Numbers go up. Time limit of play. Pre-play prep. First session. Situational sessions. Perfect. Why to play? It's fun. Characters are hot. I agree. They should be. And that's it. Great. Angels. Finally. Let's do it. We're going to read 2 playbooks because we have to experience what the heck these playbooks are. We're going to do these 2. The first 2. Alphabetically, the Angel and the Battle Babe. We're going to read before the end of this stream. Let's do it. Maybe one day we'll just have a stream where we talk about game design. And we don't pull up a game. But, you know. That's breaking the format. The Angel. When you're lying in the dust of Apocalypse World, guts spilled, for whom do you pray? The gods? They're long gone. Your beloved comrades? You wouldn't be, they're bad. I'm not gonna curse on my stream. You crazy? Quickest way to get demonetized. Or you wouldn't be here to begin with. Your precious old mother, she's a darling, but she can't put an intestine back inside, so it'll stay. No, you pray for some grinning kid or veteran, or just someone with a heart shocker and a hand with sutures and a 6-pack of morphine. And when that someone comes, that's an angel. Angels are medics. If you want everybody to love you, or at least rely on you, play an angel. Warning, if things are going well, maybe nobody will rely on you. Make interesting relationships so you'll stay relevant. Or sabotage things, I guess. Let's read... let's read the Angel. I think I could just scroll down and find the Angel. Right here. Okay, name. Look, stats. Cool. Stats. Cool. This is an interesting clock that I feel like if I had more time, I would dissect more. What a curious clock. Oh my gosh, there are sex rules for every character. That's ridiculous. What a wild playbook. Does every single one have this? I have to know. I have to. It does. It's not even like a section out of the way. It's literally in the center of the character sheet. How wild is that? Okay, whatever. I must know. Your history with them on your sheet immediately goes to +3, and they immediately get +1 to their history with you on their sheet. If that brings their history with you to +4, they reset it to +1 instead, as usual, and mark experience. And experience is your way to improve. So, I understand improve experience. In other games, I'm going to take an educated guess and say you get experience whenever you fail a roll. I don't know if that's true. You can correct me in chat if you know how to get experience. But these are flat ways to get flat bonuses to your sheet. So experience improve. I do like the failing upward system.
of PbtAs where it's like the more you do bad, the better your character gets, which is cool because eventually that means you do get to do cool things and it evens out. But this is so ridiculous. And what's so funny about this is that my first thought when I read this was, how do I optimize it? Right? How do I optimize it? So it's saying you immediately get +1 to their history with you every time you do it. And if that goes to +4, they reset it to 1 and then you mark experience. So like if you just keep doing it, you keep increasing your experience eventually. Too easily broken. Come on. Too easily broken. I'm joking. You couldn't tell. Angel moves. Angel moves. 6 cents. When you open your brain to the world's psychic maelstrom, I gotta know about this world psychic maelstrom. This is my favorite thing I've read about this game so far. Roll +sharp instead of +weird. That's kind of cool. So like your ability to intuit it. That's great. Infirmary. You get an infirmary, a workplace with life support, a drug lab, and a crew of 2 Shigusa and Mox maybe. I don't know what this means. Get patients into it. And you can work on them like a savvy head on tech CF. I also don't know what this phrase means, but that's because I've been skipping around the book. I won't blame the book, it's my fault. Professional compassion. You can roll +sharp instead of roll history when you help someone who's rolling. Oh, that's pretty good. So this means like your brains allow you to help people even if you don't know them too well. That's the narrative beat of that. Like a doctor, you know. You help people even if you don't know them. Battlefield grace. While you're caring for people, not fighting, you get +1 armor. Cool. A little bit of plot armor for being able to help people around the battlefield. Healing touch. When you put your hand skin to skin on a wounded person and open your brain to them, roll +weird. On a 10+, heal 1 segment. Oh, this is a segment. Okay, this is a segment. I was gonna say. I was like, a segment of the body? On a 7 to 9, heal 1 segment, but you're also opening your brain, so roll that move next. Oh, that's a move. It's a basic move. Opening your brain? Yes, open your brain. Right there. Okay. On a miss, first, you don't heal them. Second, you've opened both your brain and theirs to the world's psychic maelstrom without protection or preparation. Lovely. For you and for your patient, if your patient's a fellow player character, treat it as though you've made that move and missed the roll. For patients belonging to the MC, their experience and fate are up to the MC. Dang. Crazy. Touched by death. When someone is unconscious in your care, you can use them for augury. When someone has died in your care, you can use their body for augury. So, I love moves that have ridiculous consequences. That's so funny to me. That if you fail, your mind is opened up to the eldritch world of the psychic maelstrom. I don't know what it actually is, but that's what it feels like. You just get your mind rended. You know, I love ridiculous things like this. I believe there's a playbook in Masks called The Doomed, and there's basically an inevitability that you just die. Like, they're literally, if you do something too many times, you just die. And I love that. That's so ridiculous. If there were more things in D&D where you do it and your character dies, I would love it. That's so dumb to me, and I love it. I appreciate the opportunity to have grave consequences, and I don't like when a game babies me. I know when I want to die. I know when I want to make bad decisions. And if you facilitate my ability to make bad decisions, I will utilize them so that the story is improved. Let it be known. Let me optimize bad decisions. Oh my gosh. If there was ever a character in D&D entirely based on luck and the consequences of bad luck, I would play the life out of them. I think suffering is the one of the best things you can do in a tabletop RPG because it opens up so much stories. Let's talk about their angel kit. Your angel kit has all kinds of stuff in it. Scissors, rags, tape, needles, clamps, gloves, coils, wipes, alcohol injectables, tourniquets, and blood slower, instant blood packets, and coffee reddener. Tubes of heat mesh, bone pins, and site injectors, biostabs, chemostabs, narcostabs, chill stabs, and quality, and a roll of heart jump shock patches for when it comes to that. It's big enough to fill the trunk of a car. When you use it, spend its stock. You can spend 0 to 3 of its stock per use. You can resupply it for 1 barter per 2 stock if your circumstances let you barter for medical supplies. See, I love this stuff. This is fun. This is a bunch of cool words that probably have very little consequences mechanically. I love cool words. I love cool things. And I love not having to study each and every single word to know what it means. I could just make up what meat mesh means. I could just make up what chemostabs mean. You know, that's fun. That's a personal preference, but that's fun. Oh golly, to use it to stabilize and heal someone at 9 p.m. or past, roll plus stock spent. On a hit, they stabilize and heal to 6. On a 2, 6 o'clock. So this stuff right here. I'm assuming harm is the clock. On a save, they heal to 6 and choose 2 or 1. They fight you and you have to narco stab them. How long will they be out? The pain and drugs make them babble the truth to you. Ask them what secret they spill. Ooh, this was fun. If they respond very well to treatment, recover 1 of the stock you spent if you spent any. They're at your complete mercy. What do you do to them? This is a bit worrying. I don't like lack of autonomy in a game. At least inflicted PvP. Their course of recovery teaches you something about their craft, mark experience. They owe you for your time, attention, and supplies, and you're going to hold them to it. On a miss, to take a -1 harm. 1 dash harm instead. To use it to speed the recovery of someone at 3 to 6. Don't roll, they choose. You spend 1 stock and they spend 4 days or 1 week blissed out on chill stabs. Immobile but happy. I like that. Or else they do their time in agony like everyone else. To use it to revive someone whose life has become untenable. Spend 2 stock. They come back, but you get to choose how they come back. Interesting. Choose from regular what life is untenable list, or else choose 1. They come back in your deep, deep debt. They come back with a prosthetic. I would do this every single time. This one right here. You and they both come back with +1 weird. I actually like this one too. You use it to treat an I would just keep giving prosthetics because it's fun. Use it to treat an NPC. Spend 1 stock. They're stable now and they'll recover in time. Cool. I like how it applies differently to PCs and NPCs. You have a supplier. At the beginning of every session, gain 1 stock, maximum of 6 stock. Cool. Neat. Treating an angel. This is actually pretty long. This is longer than I expected for a playbook. Names. Clearly very short names. Doc, Core, Wheels, Buzz, Key, Gabe, Biz, Bish, Line, Ish, Inch, Grip, and Setter. Look. Man, woman, ambiguous, transgressing, or concealed. Utility wear, casual wear plus utilities. Grunge wear plus utility. Kind, strong face, rugged face, haggard face. Quick eyes, hard eyes, caring eyes. Compact body, stout body, spare body. Neat. And these are the history rolls. I love the history rolls. Let's learn about these. These are the questions that, and I say this about every game. If there's foundational questions that you can give to players, to give to other players, to build other characters, so good. Players aren't creative at the jump, you know? You gotta push them in the right direction at first, especially when they're learning a new game. And these are so perfect for getting everybody on the same page. So, which one of you do I figure is doomed to self-destruction? Great question. Love that. Which one of you put a hand in when it mattered and helped me save a life? Also a good question. Which one of you has been beside me all along, hasn't seen everything I've seen? Pretty good question. Like, I love these shared history questions. I feel like this is something any character creation can have that would drastically improve the experience of building a team of characters together. Thank you for visiting, Firebreak. I appreciate your insight.
Okay, cool. And that's all for that. I'm gonna read Battle Babe because I feel like that's something that I believe will probably what's the word? Exemplify the energy of this game. It just has that sort of energy. Even in a place as dangerous as Apocalypse World, Battle Babes are they're the ones you should walk away from, eyes down, but you can't. They're the ones like the seductive blue crackling light, you know. You mistake looking at them for falling in love, and you get too close and it's a zillion volts, and your wings burn off like paper. Dangerous. Battle Babes are good in battle, of course, but they're wicked social too. If you want to play someone dangerous and provocative, play a Battle Babe. Warning, you might find that you're better at making trouble than getting out of it. If you want to play the baddest, play a gun lugger instead. Okay, let's read what they can do. They're special. Nullify the other character's move. Beautiful. Perfect counter. This is a this counters the OP angel ability. It's really funny. Okay. Moves. Dangerous. When you enter into a charged situation, roll plus hot. On a 10 plus, hold 2. On a 7 to 9, hold 1. Oh, look, holding is in this game. I thought there wasn't holding. They didn't even bring up holding in the basic rules. So I talked about holding like it wasn't here, and it is here. Spend your hold 1 for 1 to make eye contact with an NPC present who freezes and flinches and can't take action until you break it off. On a miss, your enemies identify you immediately as their foremost threat. Sick. Ice cold. When you go aggro on an NPC, roll plus 2 instead of roll plus hard. When you go aggro on another player's character, roll history instead of hard. Oh, okay. So like the better you know them, the more effective you are. That's neat. Merciless. When you inflict harm, inflict plus 1 harm. Cool. Visions of death. When you go into battle, roll plus 1 weird. On a 10 plus, name 1 person who'll die and 1 who'll live. Oh? Huh? What is this leading to? On a 7 to 9, name 1 person who'll die or 1 person who'll live. Don't name a player's character, name NPCs only. Oh, okay. Sure. The MC will make your vision come true if it's even remotely possible. On a miss, you foresee your own death and accordingly take -1 throughout the battle. Great. Love that. Harsh consequences. I don't know if I'd ever use this, but when I do, I'll make sure it's very, very important. That's neat. Perfect instincts. When you've read a charge situation and you're acting on the MC's answers, take plus 2 instead of plus 1. Sure. Impossible reflexes. The way you move unencumbered counts as armor. If you're naked or nearly naked, 2 minus armor. 2 dash armor. If you're wearing non-armor fashion, 1 minus armor. If you're wearing armor, use it instead. Neat. Good for the aesthetic. Custom weapons. Custom hand weapons. Oh, there's a lot of weapons. Cool. I don't know if this is unique to the Battle Babe, but it's cool. And then barter. Names. Raksha. Kickskirt. Kickskirt is a cool name. Kickskirt. Doesn't roll off the tongue very well, but it's cool. Kite, Monsoon, Smith, Beastie, Baba, Melody, Mar, Tavi, Absinthe, Honey Tree. Look. Man, woman, ambiguous, transgressing, formal wear, display wear, luxwear. Luxwear is a cool phrase too. I like this. Casual wear, showy armor, smooth face, sweet face, handsome face, sharp face, girlish face, boyish face, striking face. Nice. I'm gonna read the history questions. Sounds good. On your turn, ask the other players which of their characters you can trust. For characters you trust, history -1. Characters you can't trust, history +3. Interesting. So you gain history based on how much you don't trust them. You're indifferent to what is safe and drawn to what is not. Cool. That's a character building thing. On the other's turn to answer the questions as you like. At the end, choose one of the characters with the highest history on your sheet. Ask that player which of your stats is most interesting and highlight it. The MC will have you highlight a second stat too. Okay. Great. Do I think I got the full picture of Apocalypse World by reading this? No, I think we accomplished something very different, which was a very detailed opinion piece on me and PbtA and my highs and lows of it. This I can't get my head around the intense focus on sex moves. I feel like it's not something I would thoroughly enjoy in a game that I play. And it's weird that it's so explicit about like the act of it rather than just like intimacy or romance or connection, you know? I understand that this is like not a kid's game, but this seems a bit blunt. And hey, games like that exist. Who am I to say that every game has to be sanitized, right? Not my cup of tea, but certainly a cup of tea. But like mechanically, it's like the goal is you get to know them better than you did before. So it adds a bonus to your history. That's the mechanical aspect, right? How you do that is entirely up to you, when they imply that this is very specifically intercourse. And then sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's awkward. And yeah, of course, this is essential that it's mutual and consensual. If it wasn't, I would write this game off right away. Yeah. Okay, it is 10:08. I feel like there is much about this game that I didn't get a chance to read. And this might be the first game where we might just visit it a second time and see if we can just get a better glimpse of what this game is. I went on a very long tangent, and that's pretty much my fault. So I don't want to blame the game for that. In summary, not many deviated from the formula of PbtA. A lot of it really just translated over to all the games that I read. Very, very little change. It feels like the core mechanics of PbtA are almost exactly the same. And that's neat. I think that speaks to the strength of the format. And as one that has persisted for, I believe it's now 13 years from 2010, that's really neat. Writing a PbtA feels like you're joining a family of storied games. And a great benefit of writing a PbtA is that many people will not feel like the game is foreign to them, in that they already understand a good portion of your mechanics, or can be assured that a lot of your mechanics will be understandable. So that's neat to me too. Now, if you couldn't tell from my voice, I feel like I'm losing it. So I think I'll call it a night here. Thank you guys for everybody who tuned in. Thank you so much. There were so many people who commented in chat, which was wonderful. Thank you for the discourse. All of that will be recorded in the VOD, I believe. There'll be a running chat that you could check back on if you want to read any of this. Thank you for all of you who chimed in. It was just so good to read everybody's opinions, because I feel like many people have history with not only the system but the game, and that's so important. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful night and stay frosty.